lives, we understand we have personal choices in our religious or spiritual life and our intellectual life, but for some reason, for 100 years or so, we have decided that people, you and I, we don't have the sense on what to do with our own bodies. And I would think that, you know, our spiritual lives and our intellectual lives are probably, you know, much more important than what we put into our bodies. And just think of the damage done by ill-advised religious beliefs and ill-advised intellectual beliefs. That can kill a lot of people. So this is the... that the government's going to protect us against ourselves is really, if that's not reversed, it's the end of individual liberty, because you cannot have the government protecting us against ourselves of everything we do without them becoming an authoritarian government and destroying our personal liberty. So that has to be challenged at the core. Not only do they not let us make our choice about what we put into our mouths and our body, they have taken away some other choices. I think it's rather disgusting that we can't even pick our own light bulbs to buy. Every once in a while we find out there are economic advantages to the companies who want to throw out all the old light bulbs and make us buy all the new light bulbs that don't work very well. So there's always a special interest. Once you get government big and there's an entitlement system and influence, believe me, the special interests go and money talks, and that's where we are today. The unfortunate part is the individual, the person who wants it. I just want to be left alone. You know, I just want to have my own life. Spend my own money and not send it off fighting wars that don't make any sense. Just get the government out of our lives, off our backs, and out of our wallet. That's what we need. Recently, even in the last couple of debates, it's come up, and it's the biggest story in Washington. It isn't the wars that are going on and the killing and the bankruptcy. It's who pays for birth control pills. So I would think, why wouldn't the logical answer be, but you know, logic in Washington doesn't sell that all that well. But why shouldn't the logic be, well, whoever wants the birth control pills, why don't they go buy them?
That's right!
For approximately 30 years in OB, and I prescribed a lot of birth control. The subject never came up. But that was in the old days when medicine was different. It was a doctor-patient relationship, not the government and the insurance companies and the drug companies and all the corporations getting in the middle. Now we have corporate medicine, and a lot of people complain about it, and the biggest complaint, it costs too much. Well, sure, it costs too much because most of the corporations are making the money, and the doctor and patients don't, you know, have an ability to work together and with each other. So government medicine is not good for us. It's a very bad medicine, and one thing for certain, it'll push the costs up. And that's the biggest problem in this country, is the cost of medicine. And whether it's Republican or Democrats, they get in and they pass more bills. I mean, the Republicans had prescription drug programs, and now we have Obamacare. And believe me, the quality of care is not going up, but I can guarantee you the price is going to keep going up. There will be more rationing. Once you start rationing, you have shortages, and we're already seeing that. That's what's happened in every socialized system of medicine. You have shortages, then you have underground economies, and the whole works. Freedom is what we need. We need to have more confidence. We need to have an understanding how the free market works, whether you're delivering cell phones or whether you're delivering medical care or whatever. Freedom works much better than the government bureaucracies do. This idea that our personal choices are totally undermined, our civil liberties are not protected, even though the founders did their very best, came out on the legislation that was signed into law on January 1st. You know, the National Defense Authorization Act. it, so many of you already know about it, but I know you didn't hear about it on the evening news because they don't talk about it. It wasn't even talked about in the debates. The other three candidates they think it's a grand idea. And this means that the military can arrest American citizens without charges, without permitting them to have an attorney, without a trial, put in a secret prison indefinitely. And that is now the law of the land. So the president so often takes on too many powers, but the Congress is delivering it to him on a platter. If we're to have a republic, believe me, it's not going to happen if we allow laws like that on the books as well as the Patriot Act. Those laws need to be removed. We need to defend our liberties. The president a year ago, and again this week, Holder came and announced in a speech that the president has the authority under the Constitution to assassinate American citizens. But he'll do it carefully. And he will check it out so that he follows the rule of law. But a careful analysis by a few people in the administration will fulfill his requirement to do it under the rule of law.
Was a traitor!
Now that is very, very dangerous talk because the president has proven that he can do it, and that is that he's done it on 3 occasions. Alaki was probably a very bad guy, but they never charged him with anything. They never tried him, and he associated with the wrong people, and they said, well, he's conspiring to hurt us. So we assassinated him, and they said, well, a family member, looks like he could have been an accomplice, so they assassinated his son. Turned out the son was 16 years old, barbecuing with his cousin, killed both him and his cousin. So this is not what we're supposed to be all about. We're supposed to be protecting our liberties, not allowing our president and our Congress to destroy our liberties. This needs to be reversed. Liberty is privacy. We should have our privacy of our home and our bodies and our friends and neighbors and our meetings and all these things. Matter of fact, if you understand property rights and privacy, it protects most of all the 10 Amendments. So it is this privacy that is so important. The government shouldn't be allowed to intrude on our lives and know everything that we do. But today, the government knows everything about us. They want to even undermine, as they tried to do on Stop Online Gambling Act, the Piracy Act. Fortunately, that was stopped. But we have this reverse. The government is destroying our privacy, and is government getting more open? No, they think they have to have total secrecy. When are we going to know exactly what the Federal Reserve is doing and who they're bailing out and spending their trillions of dollars on? Politics, there's a strong sentiment with conservatives and libertarians and Republicans to change his administration, and that is, one thing that I think most of the candidates agree on, that we should change this administration. But the whole thing is if we're going to change it, don't you think we should change policy as well? Yeah. Over the years, we elect different parties and different leaders. We end up with the same foreign policy. We end up with the same monetary policy. We end up with the same entitlement system, the same special interest system. So we really need to change more than just the party. Now, the other candidates in this particular race, I think, are not going to be able to stand up to this. When you take one of the companies that have received the most benefit has been Goldman Sachs. Do we want to be known as the Goldman Sachs party? No. We're supposed to be challenging the bailouts of the Goldman Sachs. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Against the advice of Eisenhower that we are going to be the champion of the military-industrial complex. Anything they want to spend, we spend money, don't cut one nickel, have this automatic increase forever buying weapons. We have more weapons than everybody else put together. Nobody's going to attack us. We're the strongest nation ever, and we don't have to worry. That's one thing the military can do. Militarily, our country can be defended. We don't need more weapons to do that. Weapons that we need to probably blow up the world more than about 25 times. So I would say we certainly don't need more nuclear weapons. We need less nuclear weapons in the world, is what I think. I also think that we're slipping in the direction, and so many of the others speak out, they're really not challenging the Federal Reserve. You cannot solve this problem without the understanding, the economic understanding of how the Federal Reserve undermines and destroys the economy, how it creates the business cycle, how it monetizes debt and makes the government grow. So we have to be not in favor, in favor of propping up the Federal Reserve. We have to challenge the Federal Reserve. This is what we have to do, and this is the reason why I do talk a lot about the monetary policy, and we should continue to it. But also, we don't need social authoritarians. We need people to respect other people's privacies, other people's lives. This is what we need. We don't need to be told what to do unless somebody hurts somebody. If you hurt somebody else or take somebody else's property, there's a role for government. But we have to have enough confidence in ourselves that if we endorse freedom for everybody, it means we endorse freedom for others to use it in ways that we might not. But we don't have to endorse what they do. If we have the freedom of choice to spend our own money, some people are going to waste their money. But that's what happens in a free society. They should have the right to waste their money, but they don't have a right to come to us and bail them out. That's the And this is what we should do. We should work very hard to understand the principles of liberty. Because if we do, we find out that liberty brings people together. It is a tolerant system. It is saying, yes, you spend your money the way you want, run your personal life as you want. Just don't impose your values on me or somebody else. It's your business. If there are consequences that are negative, you have to suffer the consequences. But for us to say that we want to impose values or impose our idea of how to spend money, you get into the mess that we're in now and proposing all kinds of laws of doing this and that. And I see that as just divisive. But truly, when we get people together and talking about this, the crowds are very diverse. People come together, not because they belong to a group and they want special privileges, but because we're all individuals and we want to be treated as individuals. There was a time in our history when we were very abusive and unfair to certain people in certain groups. But that doesn't mean that we should give privileges to people in certain groups either. We should all be treated equally because we're individuals. It is that understanding that would bring us together and not this pretense that we can force our values on others. And when government does it, if government is involved in trying to make individuals virtuous and put force on us, believe me, they can make an effort, they can't do it, but it's always at the expense of liberty. And just think if they want economic equality, it's at the expense of liberty, it's at the expense of productivity, you have a weak economy, you have debts, and you have all these things. And then this preposterous idea that we're going to tell other nations what to do. I mean, sometimes they might not like that idea. And then we give them a choice. We say, this is what we want you to do, and if you do it, we'll give you a lot of money. And then if you don't do it, we'll give you a lot of bombs. Why don't we take the advice of the founders? Why don't we say, look, what we're going to offer is friendship and trade with people. You deal with your problems, and we're going to work hard to perfect our lives. promoted the idea that we have to go around the world telling them how to live, believe in American exceptionalism. That's been around a long time. It started probably back with Woodrow Wilson. And we are an exceptional nation. And in many ways, we have been an exceptional nation. I think we have exceptional values. But this whole idea that we can force that on other people just doesn't work. Now, if we want to spread our exceptionalism, what we should do is have a sound economy, sound money, civil liberties, peace, and then set the example of the world, and then they may want to emulate us, and that's a much better way to do it. About the years that I served in the military. I was in the military for 5 years. I was drafted during the Cuban crisis. And I did not have to go to Vietnam. I had to see people who were sent there and those that came back, so I have a little understanding exactly what was going on. But historically, the French were in Vietnam for approximately 10 years, and we were there another 10 years. 1 million Vietnamese died, 60,000 Americans died, many tens of thousands were wounded, and I still see the veterans who are suffering from that war. And the war didn't go well. We had to leave. Somebody would say, yeah, like we lost that one. But what happened? They intimidated us and said, we had to go, we had to go. There was a domino effect, and the whole world, all of Asia would be communistic. Well, they won,